hailing us from the USS Spacebook. Time to slingshot into 2021 and engage your warp drive for this belated episode, this season wrap-up. Well, it's our season wrap-up rather than theirs, for our YouTube exclusive, raw, unfiltered Star Trek video podcast, vodcast. Yeah, news, reviews, opinions, and hilarity. A little bit of obscenity from the final frontier. With me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and my away team this time. Home away team. They're on the transporter pad, ready to beam into this brand new year. Let's see, who have we got? We've got Trinity. We've got a Trinity for you, just like Kirk, McCoy, and Spock, except we're probably more sort of Odo, Nog, and Q. I think. I'm not sure who is who. We can work that out when I bring in, yes, Keith Isles and the Rabbi, Sweeney Betkin. Welcome back. Happy New Year.
If Keith is Nog, I'm Q, okay? That's the way it's going.
I'll happily be
Is that
Odo.
Discovery mug?
Mm.
Look at
It
that.
is. I thought I'd.
It's the Discovery piece of merchandise.
There we go.
We found it.
Treasure that. They're not making any more.
It's a very eye-catching design, particularly the blue on white. How are we, Keith? How are things? Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year to you. Yeah, you know, things are as they are. But yes, thank you for inviting me on as always. So
because we should explain, Keith and I are in the UK. We are heavily locked down, aren't we? If this was, we're under sort of Section 31 regulations, aren't we? If this was Star Trek, they'd have they've got the boot on the throat, really, and we're not really supposed to even talk about it, I don't think, because Boris himself could abseil into our homes. Just imagine
that'd be scary.
Like the milk tray man crossed with Beaker from the Muppets, Rabbi.
Are you on tier 31 now?
We're getting there. I've told you we're allowed to breathe. We're allowed to breathe in as long as we don't breathe out. And how are things in Israel with you, Rabbi?
Listen, I very rarely go out, but we're super locked down right now. My daughter is in the army, and her job right now is on the pandemic hotline, telling people to go into isolation when they get tracked, to have it. But now she's also in isolation as well because somebody in a unit has come down with it. So now I've had my first jab. I'm having my second one next week. We're keeping her locked in a room while she advises the country on what to do about what to do when you're locked in a room. It's so bizarre. There's nothing. 2021. We went, oh, thank God, 2021's here. Really? I don't think so. I think 2020. I think 2020 was us going up the ratchet of that roller coaster. I think I fell over the holidays. I was going over the precipice, and I think we're right there right now. And I'm like, I don't like roller coasters much.
It is a little like that. As long as everybody's safe and well, that is good to hear. But I know exactly what you mean. 20
minutes. Let's see how long that lasts.
Well, I think that oftentimes when the rest of the world is sort of in flames or falling down around our ears and everything's a bit too stressful to take or too much to bear, then we retreat, don't we, into our geek culture, into our fantasies, because we can always rely on them to take us away from the everyday, from politics, from social justice, and anything remotely contentious, can't we? Which brings us... You know where I'm going with this, don't you? Let's get right into it because, we are, for anybody who's just joining us for the first time, because we have had a boost in subscribers, this is Warp Drive, where we've been talking at great length and working our way through the latest block of Star Trek episodes. Star Trek Discovery Season 3, which I think started late October time, something like that. We've been in the trenches, haven't we, Keith?
Yeah. Well,
it's been like that movie Dunkirk or 1917. Yeah, so we've been here week by week originally through the first big run in the run-up to Christmas. But before that, we were talking about the animated show Lower Decks, which was... which the rabbi here is still having aversion therapy about. So it's been a long old trudge. We've had a little bit of a break over Christmas and New Year, and I've got to be honest, I've been having so much fun that coming back to thinking about Star Trek again, I was surprised how much of a chore I was sort of finding it. But before we get too deeply into that and where we are now, the gentlemen here directly below me have seen the 2 final episodes. I haven't yet, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later on and where we're going to go in the future with Warp Drive. But for now, I wanted to sort of recap on the episodes that I have seen and tell you where I was with them, what I took away from them, and just see where you are with it too, whether we're remotely on the same page, because I feel that they were 2 very, very different animals, but I had quite a similar reaction to both of them. So we're talking about episodes 10 and 11 first. We could take a look at those. But I found the series up to now, I have found it very variable and disappointing. I think not the highest, that's over-egging it a little bit, but the things that made me kind of optimistic going in, they really quite quickly fell by the wayside to the point where I find the show unrecognizable. And, really starting to question my connection with the whole fictional universe, if I'm honest. But yeah, here we are with, where are we? Yes. Which is first? Oh, yes, I remember. Because when were you?
Oh, you don't make me remember. No.
When
I can tell you, Star Trek Discovery is at its absolute worst, that's a pretty terrible bar to go below. It's at its absolute worst when it's using the corpse of Star Trek in some kind of horrible necrophilia. kind of way, a corpse that it's murdered horribly. Listen, I like the representation of the Guardian Forever.
It's beautifully
That's
done,
good. But like the guy, oh my god, like why? What if you're gonna change it so fundamentally and make it something so different? Why say it's the same thing? It's like have you ever heard the stories when the guys who did Red Dwarf were being courted by Hollywood? And they
Yes.
said, "Oh, it's great. Do we need to set it on a spaceship though?" And they're like, "Well, can we set it in the city in the future?" They're like, "I guess so." And the cat, does the cat have to be a cat? Maybe we can be. I'm like, and they got the point. Well, what do you want? What are you paying us for then? If you don't want to do anything with it, and you want to change it all, then put a different name on it.
You bought the rights to Red Dwarf, why make a completely different show? Yeah, I thought that, that scene was very dramatic, and as usual with everything on Discovery, I know this is towards the end, but the effects were absolutely beautiful. And even though I think on the last Warp Drive show, I had commented, hadn't I, Keith, that the character and the setup was similar to the Guardian of Forever.
Yeah.
I didn't expect, because as the rabbis quite rightly pointed out, this avatar character that they've created of Carl, he is completely different, isn't he? And it does sort of, I think it does rob the Guardian itself that solemn sight of the open hole that's faceless. For me, I kind of agree with the rabbi. I think it robs it of something. But how do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean,
it was a lovely performance by this actor, but
yeah, he was good, and obviously the sort of, if you like, in-universe conceit of it is the fact that after the events of the original series, when we saw the Guardian of Forever for the first time, centuries later, when they got into that temporal war, the temporal accords, the temporal Cold War, people started using the Guardian of Forever portal to go through time to try and change events to win the war and all this sort of stuff. So the Guardian had been in hiding as a result, and that's kind of why they sort of went around that story point of him appearing as Carl or whatever. Which, the one thing I was really
Keith, I don't know about you, that's a story that I would much rather see that than pretty much anything we've seen on Star Trek since 2017. That story.
I must admit, I was kind of hoping, because of my, if you like, love of Star Trek Enterprise and the fact of when this show is now set, I was kind of hoping that we'd get a little bit of the temporal Cold War and maybe future guy that they set up in Star Trek, and we never actually in Enterprise, and we never actually found out who that was. I was hoping they might somehow sort of link that, because this is only a century or so afterwards. But the actual reimagining of the Guardian of Forever, I wasn't unhappy with that, because they've still sort of stuck to the essence of the portal. I mean, obviously,
what the device can actually do, and there's a psychological element to it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the 60s, you had sort of a fiberglass, set on a sound stage with some interactive lighting and a bit of dry ice fog and whatever. They've kind of obviously updated it, but they've kept essentially the look of it, close enough that I don't really have an issue with the update as far as that's concerned.
No,
so yeah.
No, I mean, it looked great. I mean, I like so much. That's what really like pains me about Star Trek Discovery. A lot of it just looks like they put so much effort and time in it. It really looked great. And I say this season, I think is an improvement on season 2, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen. I don't think it's as good as season 1. I think they really tried their best. But again, for me, Star Trek is always at its worst when it's treading on the past. You didn't see the season finale, but they ended with the original series soundtrack, and it just hurts me. And for some reason, I think honestly, that's
such a massive. How can I put this? It just totally conflicts with everything. The fact that they've moved forward with this and they've made statements about where they're going editorially, and the fact that they are looking forward. That seems like a really strange thing to do. All I've really seen of the actual finale are a bunch of pictures of the central cast in new uniforms, where they all look like they're pregnant, even the men. They got these really weird smocks. And I thought, oh, okay.
The uniforms are essentially in an alternate universe where Germany won World War II. That's what the McDonald's would look like. That's what those uniforms are. It's like kind of a fascist McDonald's uniform, and it just made everybody look awful in it. I mean, like nobody in the show is unattractive until you put them in those pieces of dress. Like, what were they thinking?
Well, they looked a lot prettier dressed like this in the gold and things like that for this episode. I've got a little bit just in case. It's been a few weeks for me, so just to remind me more than you, this was Terra Firma Part 2, and Giorgio uncovers the true depths of the plot against her, leading her to a revelation about how deeply her time on the USS Discovery truly changed her. So this episode went exactly where I said it would go, where I felt it would go, and hit pretty much all those beats in that order. The main difference I feel about it was the presentation, and this I struggled to keep my attention on this, on the teleplay, on the script of it. I felt that they'd got the plot marked out, probably on some sort of whiteboard in the office, and we went quite routinely from scene to scene where characters spoke at one another rather than actually had a conversation. It was the strangest thing. And to put Michelle Yeoh's character at the center of something like this, so I've described in the past that she seems like she's acting in another series altogether. Whatever series it's in her head and that this character represents seems unique to her. David Cronenberg seems on a very similar wavelength.
Yes.
But everybody else in the cast is acting in a totally different show. Moving her to the center of it is an interesting prospect because she is incredibly charismatic. For somebody to have, let's be honest, meager acting ability, but this great presence, to me, that means she's magnetic and she is a star from that alone. And yet somehow it still couldn't hold my interest. It still didn't feel compelling. These characters still didn't feel real. And when it did get to the places where I thought it was going to go, which I was anticipating and thought were worthwhile and quite nourishing on a spiritual level, potentially. That whole thing where it could go like that movie, the Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life, for example. It could have gone down that road. And I think they were trying, but by forcing square pegs into round holes, because you put a character like Giorgio in the middle of this, who no fucker can relate to. She is that wildly outside the realms of anybody you would ever meet. You cannot relate to her. But the people all around her weren't that much different. So you've got Sonequa Martin Green, who is undoubtedly, I know people think she's a little wooden, and I do get it, and I do wonder about her star quality, but I think she's a capable enough actress. But this character that we see on the right-hand side here, her picture in the of this mirror universe version of Burnham, she has not got the range to play this character. So she just chews and chews and chews at that scenery, spits it out, and chews it some more. And when she's doing that, when those two performances are opposite one another, I feel like I'm watching a pantomime, Rabbi.
Yeah, I mean, I normally enjoy pantomimes. Pantomimes normally you get a bunch of sweeties, you know, on the way in. You get some.
Oh no, you don't.
Oh,
This is what they want. This is the quality. This is the good stuff.
Look, the only way to understand Star Trek Discovery, I think, is that we are watching whatever Michael Burnham's real name is. We're watching her psychological breakdown. Bit by bit, as she is convinced that she is the central linchpin to the universe, and you didn't see that, but it gets more obvious as it goes along. That and she's completely insane. She is completely. She believes that she's gone into the far future. She's solved this incredible galaxy-wide crippling problem. She's made everything better. She's fixed the Federation. And she's like everything. She is the bestest ever in every way, shape, and form.
So she believes her own hype and they've built the character up to that level.
All like her delusion. You remember Total Recall, right? Total Recall. Yeah. You have a bit in it where you've got the guy, like the fat guy who like was presenting the commercial, right? And in the middle, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he comes into Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he says, "Listen, you're having a psychotic breakdown. If you don't take this pill and come with me, you're going to be lobotomized." And he's like, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, "So why are you sweating?" And he starts shooting. But then everything happens exactly as he said. Like there is like the world blows up, and he's clearly having a psychological breakdown. I think this show is the same thing.
I think it's the only way to explain the dialogue because nobody speaks like this. And I can't believe that, okay, the human race can evolve a lot in 200-300 years and in 800-900 years, even more so. But do you see what I'm saying about this, Keith? Do you see why I found this such a struggle to get through?
No, I mean, Pete and I have talked about this in depth on our podcast, Let's See What's Out There, where we've gone through every episode of the season. And as you know,
Pete, if you're out there, Happy New Year, Pete, if you're watching.
Yeah, hopefully he is. And as you know, I've been a defender of Star Trek Discovery. The misstep, in my opinion, this season for it was the going to the mirror universe. We didn't really need two episodes on this, and the producers seem obsessed with the mirror universe because we keep going back to it. And it was a popular episode in the original series, and of course Deep Space Nine visited it several times. Essentially, this two-parter was just really to set up Georgiou for her Section 31 series to get her off the ship.
Do you think they've used this? That they've used the mirror universe whereas in Deep Space Nine they used it to enhance the central storyline. Do you think they've used this as a crutch to support the structure of their show?
Yes, I mean, I think.
What's the difference?
What I think would have been better is if they'd got Georgiou through the Guardian of Forever and to wherever she's going to end up for this Section 31 show, which is still sort of unclear as to exactly when that's going to be set, but the journey that she goes on in this two-part episode in terms of finding herself and connecting with her humanity, etc., that would have been far more interesting to have been explored in the Section 31 show itself rather than this two-part episode. I think, and I think they should have stuck to the plot, kept the eye on the ball of what's going on with Discovery and Discovery's characters, rather than having this fun romp, which that's what Mirror Universe episodes are. But it was almost as if they said, well, we we designed these expensive costumes and built these sets. We should use them again. That's kind of what it felt like, because it was like, why did they do this?
That's exactly what I mean. Look, the budget is noticeably lesser each season. And yeah, listen, this is
that can sometimes Rabbi. That can sometimes help a show, can't it? It can help them.
Yeah, not here.
I tried, Alex. I tried.
Yeah. I wish it would. I wish I liked it. I wish it was good. I wish it wasn't awful in so many ways. And I wish it would. They didn't have so many missteps, which I just think they do. So yeah, listen, this wasn't really the mirror universe. This was like some kind of a mirror universe construct that she could learn a valuable lesson about herself, so that allow herself to be saved for another. And we have no idea where she's going. I guess she's going post Next Generation somewhere, like pre-burn, right? I guess that.
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't know exactly, but yeah. I mean, you know, it was two hours or 2 episodes, 90 minutes or whatever that adds up to, but of wasted time doing this, because yes, you know, the actors got to have a lot of fun, as you said, chewing the scenery and playing their mirror selves, even though, as Rabbi rightly said, this isn't technically the mirror universe. It was a setup to make Giorgio think she was in the mirror universe or the Terran Empire or whatever. But yeah, they should have got on and told the season 3 story so that it was less rushed at the end, rather than spending 2 episodes doing this, I think, personally. But
this is how I have to feel about it. All of this is down to general off-screen mismanagement. I can understand why they wanted to hang on to a star like Michelle Yeoh, because I do think she's kind of wonderful for everything that I said about her earlier. I really do, and I would watch her in pretty much anything. So I can see why they wanted to retain her services, and I even see why and how she could work as the lead of a show if she's got the right cast around her. Not this cast, but the right cast. If she's got the right cast around her, it could absolutely work. Something could work. But with this, it's been so contrived. They contrived to bring her into the far future in the first place, because this story could have been told last season, and it would have probably have made season 2 a hell of a lot better.
Yeah,
but they didn't do that then. So they've contrived to bring her forward in time. Now they've had to contrive again to take us sideways in time, and now backwards in time. And again, it's allowed them to do some great things with special effects, some pretty nifty things. But generally speaking, I think that whilst some of us do watch things just on a surface level, anybody even who consumes this entertainment like that and who doesn't live stream or podcast about it is going to find this sticking out like a sore thumb. And I think the worst of it, when it gets down to the actual conclusion, which was so nauseating, I couldn't even bring myself to get a screenshot of it, was when, after they say goodbye to her, with the fact that Burnham is so heartbroken to see the back of this pretty foul character, that's difficult to understand. But okay, a one-to-one bond that has this echoes backwards and sideways, I'll buy that. If you sell it to me cheap enough, I suppose I'll buy it with good grace. But when she then goes back to the other crew, who all hated her guts, and they're all crying to one another. The cliche about this show is this is the show where everybody cries constantly. And I always felt in the run-up to now that was a little cruel. But no, it hit me like a ton of bricks. The conclusion to this, when they were sat in the mess, trading stories about what a wonderful character she was and how they liked having her in their lives, was just ridiculous.
Yeah. I felt like I essentially felt like what they did was they filmed Michelle Yeoh's rap party.
Hey,
because unfortunately, I think it was saying more about what the cast and crew felt about her leaving the show than it did the character. And that was what the problem with it was. It was almost like it was art imitating life too closely, if that makes sense.
and that's not going to
It
resonate
makes
with the audience.
sense because I don't think the writers of the show are competent enough to imagine anything. So they're like, oh, well, that we were all sad she's going. And like, what you said is absolutely correct. This character is hated by everybody on the ship. I don't know how she wasn't pushed out of an airlock. I just it's like when I watched the Last Jedi, which I've never managed to get through a second time. I just get so confused by so many bad and illogical creative decisions, which it's just replete in this show. Like, why are they sad she's there? Why is she there to start with? What? Nothing about this makes sense. Nothing about it makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, okay, yeah. So you got like this bond between universes between Michelle Yeoh and Michael Burnham, even though she's killed her. They killed each other a bunch of times apparently now. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't care. I don't care. Just make it stop.
That's it. You start to not care. You can't invest in it because despite their efforts to focus on human drama and to humanize a character they've made into a monster, it is mumbo jumbo. And you can't, and I don't think Star Trek, for all the technobabble is different to mumbo jumbo, isn't it?
No, the relationships is what makes Star Trek.
Yeah.
That bond, and that's universal through also if it's Voyager, Next Generation, the original series. Yeah. It's the genuine bond between the people. I think that's what people like. I think that's why people like it. I think it's why it's an aspirational show because you see how people do connect and they do care for each other. And here it just doesn't feel real because I don't think the people creating it understand human relationships and connection.
No, I would completely agree with that. And in fact, you describing that has made me, we've been talking now for 20 odd minutes and you're making me remember why I love Star Trek in the first place and why I wanted to talk about it in the first place. Whereas ironically, how many episodes of Trek have we had this year? 30 odd. Those have pushed me further and further away from that. I think we mentioned earlier on that season 3, sorry, this has been better than season 2. And I think it's helped the fact that there has been a showrunner in place for the entire duration because it's been consistent. But I think it's been consistently underwhelming.
Listen, saying this is better than season 3 is better than season 2 is somewhat akin to saying that life in the Warsaw Ghetto was much better than life in Auschwitz, right? Much better. But it's nothing to really write home about, right? Nothing you've got to go, I want to go back there. Our bar has been so lowered by just awful television for the last few years. I watched WandaVision a couple of days ago. And
no spoilers. I haven't seen it yet. No spoilers. I haven't seen it yet.
Honestly, nothing to spoil. Everything about it by watching the trailers. I'm not going to spoil anything. But the people are very excited about it, right? People are like, because it's not awful, but it's not good, right? It's not good. Yeah. Our bar has been so incredibly good. When was the last time? How many times did somebody cry in Star Trek prior to Discovery?
I was wondering the same thing because I can't. I mean, that's not.
That was so much more powerful, right? He
went tears.
He sat down.
Exactly.
It was so much more real, right?
Yeah, because most people, I think when people cry, if you see somebody crying a lot and this is in day-to-day life as well, then most of the time, 99% of the time, it's not genuine, and they're actually it's for effect. I think most people genuinely cry very rarely, and they hold it in. I think your instinct is to hold in things like that, and that's why these characters don't seem real, and that's why when people have cried in Star Trek in the past, why it's really hit, and obviously, Star Trek has got a history of characters who are steeped in stoicism, which can sometimes be its undoing. But I think from the stuff when from season 3 of TNG onwards, that became less of a thing, and the characters became more. They somehow managed to strike a balance between those aspirational people that you'd like to think the human race could become, and yet still being recognizably humane and flawed, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the reason for that, and you know, a lot of people are going to be, but it is a fact, is the fact that from season 3 of The Next Generation, that was when you know, sadly Gene Roddenberry had passed, and he wasn't, you know, connected to Star Trek, and the thing that I've read many times and listened to commentaries and all this sort of thing is that Gene always wanted no conflict. You know, he wanted this future utopia with the characters all getting along and not having conflict with one another, which obviously is great. But as Nicholas Meyer always pointed out, conflict is the basis of drama, right? So I think that when Rick Berman took the torch, and you know, I think he kept Star Trek quite true to what a lot of Gene's beliefs were, but I think that that's when they did start bringing in a little bit, you know, particularly when you get like Voyager and whatever, and you've got the Maquis mixing with the Starfleet crew, and you have some conflict and stuff. So I think I think that might have something to do with why some of those earlier Next Gen episodes didn't you know, necessarily have so much of that. I guess I don't know, but
and they'd recognised as well that they'd got good rights. I think getting somebody like Melinda Snodgrass in there to provide consistently good characters and to focus in on human drama again, as well as the people who'd been left over. Obviously, and it did, and that's when Star Trek took off, and you got this golden age, and it couldn't be more different from what it is now. And as you said, I mean, I think that people cry in that episode of, certainly that double episode, Terra Firma, that people cry in that two-parter probably more than the entirety of Star Trek up until the start of Discovery.
So far, haven't it?
It's ridiculous.
Burnham in tears. I felt the first episode she had her manic destroying of a suit of the Iron Man suit thing, and when she crashed in the bed, and then she burst into tears when she met the crew again, who she'd been away from for a whole year. She
could have adapted that. She could have adapted that suit. I mean, they burn that many bridges on this show, and then they discover later on that they may need them again, and they have to construct something else. That's why it always feels so contrived. And I love that they started this show with the potential to really evolve Michael Burnham. But all you really get is more sort of crass stunts, like in this episode, which ultimately are meaningless because she doesn't feel any real growth at all. We left. There was a gap, wasn't there? A year gap in between when she arrives and she first meets Book, and then when she reconnects with the crew of the Discovery. And the only development that we see, you know, as I think we said weeks and weeks ago, so this bulk of development. And the whole process happens totally off screen, and the character that we're represented with is this sort of weird hybrid who looks like the same person. She's got a bit more hair and a little bit more twinkle in her eye, but not a great deal. And you just feel like you've missed out really on a better series yet again.
Well, there was a montage for like a minute or so. Was it in episode 3?
That's right.
It just didn't sell it. I'm sorry, it just did. Again, I just think the people making this don't have normative human relationships. I just don't think they're like. I don't know what's wrong with them.
They were trying to be.
They have normative human relationships.
I completely agree, and they were trying to be romantic with that, weren't they? And to be kind of cinematic, but in the end, I just think, you know, at the end of the day, this is TV. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like Star Trek. But as you quite rightly said, Keith, I mean, I found this episode a huge disappointment, even though because I quite enjoyed part 1, but I found this a big disappointment, partly because it was so predictable, and I just thought it was shoddy in almost every respect. But as you quite rightly pointed out, this does lead through to whatever the Section 31 show is going to be, which I've got the names of the 2 writers here that are going to be working on that. It's Bo Young Kim and Erica Libolt.
Both of which wrote episodes this season for this.
I don't think here. Which one? I think Bo Young Kim did one of the worst episodes I've ever seen. Let me look it up.
I may have to skip this.
Which episode was it again? Hang on, I'm looking at the episode.
It wasn't Unification part.
People of Earth. Oh God, I hated People of Earth. It took him and somebody else to write that. It took him and Erica Lippold to do it. Did he do
There was a third writer on this one, Alan McElroy, who I think has sort of tuned up a lot of the scripts this year. Which, Alan, I'd hate to think what they were like before, Alan.
I would love to see that. I would love to see. Listen. I mean, has Harlan Ellison not been treated shoddily enough with City on the Edge of Forever? Which, if you never read the original screenplay, so much better than the episode we saw, and that's the best episode of the original series of Star Trek. Has he not been, treated shoddily enough? So now we've got to drag up the Guardian of Forever and do it wrong. For some reason, give the Guardian all new powers. They can say, no, we don't travel in time anymore. Now we travel in dimensions, and we can make fake realities, and I can do all kinds of new things. Plus, I'm a guy with a bowler hat. I hope one day in the future, in heaven, to go and meet Harlan Ellison and have a drink with him and say, what do you think of this?
Just a nice simple question and let it roll. Just let him go. I can't believe that we're in 2021 now, and sometime in the next 18 months, 2 years, Keith, we're going to get a Star Trek Section 31 show, which is something that I've always wanted, because DS9 is a huge favourite of mine, something I've always wanted, and sadly, I don't give a shit. I really don't care if it happens or not. Some people don't think it's ever going to get made, and in the time of...
listen, even if the world doesn't end, which I'm pretty sure it's going to, even if the civilization doesn't end, the one silver lining through that cloud is that we won't get a Section 31 show. We won't get Discovery Season 4. Yeah, I understand there'll be millions of people die, but we won't get a Discovery Season 4. So, swings and roundabouts. That's what
I see. It's a very pragmatic view, as always, man. God, I've missed this show. Yes, this is what you want. Like this video. Subscribe to the Spacebook for whatever else we've got coming next. If you want more Warp Drive, if you think we've got it all right, or if you think we've got it all wrong, and this is all scandalous, and we're completely misreading it, and you loved it all, let us know in the comments section. Please, by all means, we'd love to hear. Sadly, the agony didn't end there. I went right in the following week to this little beauty, Sue Carl, which was written by Anne Coffell Saunders and directed by Norma Bailey. Now, nice to have a name I can actually pronounce without stumbling over it. In this one, Discovery ventures to the Verubin Nebula. Sounds like something you've got to put talcum powder on, doesn't it? Where Burnham, Saru, yes, it looks like a giant throbbing something. Yes, where Burnham, Saru, and Culber make a shocking realization about the origin of the burn itself at last, as the rest of the crew faces an unexpected threat. This was episode 11 of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. And whoa, they tried to do so much with this one, didn't they? They threw everything at episode 11. The thing with the burn, for a start, couldn't be less interesting after the fact. And the thing is, I mean, okay, we've only been in this show for 10 weeks, haven't we? And you've only got so much time. But we've had this sort of intergalactic catastrophe. And yet Michael Burnham, and presumably we're several centuries into the future, technology and science and communication between different civilizations across a myriad of worlds and civilizations. And scientists, scientific communities, they haven't been able to track the origin of the burn and triangulate anything. Triangulation, we do that now. Our police force, if our police force in the West Midlands can do it.
What can you do without the bestest ever? They did have Michael Burnham there, and nobody's as good as her. Even the combined intelligence of the entire universe, the entire scientific community of planets and stuff like that. We have the Romulus, we have Vulcan, we have Earth, we have we have so many people. No, all those combined together can't do what Michael Burnham did, because Michael Burnham's not doing any of this because she's freaking insane, okay? This character is out of her mind and none of this is happening. That's the only way any of this makes sense.
I'd love to know what she thinks of this material, Keith.
I'm gonna sort of disagree slightly here in the fact that no, one of the things that I will give them some credit for here, because a lot of people thought that the burn it was literally going to be the Burnham, and it was going to be all about Michael Burnham, and she caused it, or Discovery caused it, or whatever. But let's be honest, it wasn't. It wasn't anything to do with Michael Burnham, the burn. So, you know, I look at that as a good thing, because so many people complain about the fact that Burnham's the center of everything. Well, she wasn't in this case, and you know, that's whether or not the cause of the burn is that interesting is up for debate, most definitely. But it wasn't all down to Michael Burnham or Discovery.
It couldn't have been down to Michael Burnham, because they can't show her doing anything negative whatsoever, and causing the burn is negative, right? And that's why it wasn't her fault. She's there to solve it, not to cause it, because she's the bestest ever.
One of the things I loved about her, because I really loved this character when the show started, and I loved her because she fucked up so bad. Well, actually, no, I'm going to take that back, because the situation that she was in the Vulcan Hello, in that first two-parter, was actually a situation you can imagine being in yourself and not being able to make the right decision, because whichever way you go, potentially somebody's going to lose. No solution to it was ever going to end well.
A no-win scenario.
Yes. Almost, yes.
So they mentioned that, didn't they? Was it this episode or the next one? That was the other thing that I was like, oh, don't you? Yeah, no, I think it was in the final episode where one of the bad guys says to Burnham, "This is a no-win scenario," and she then punches him in the face and says, "I don't believe in the no-win scenario because I'm the best."
Because I'm the best. I don't recognise that character compared to the character we're now looking at in this.
Oh. This is no really, but what you're throwing up right now are two so insanely bad aspects of this episode.
Yes, this is the A and the B plot, isn't it? Yeah. And I don't know which one is more ridiculous than the other. Do you want to tell me, Rabbi? Give me some idea.
So I think the less ridiculous one is the holodeck transforming people into different species.
Yeah,
to
I like
that. It's also transforming their internal biology, yet somehow, when Adira beams down, she puts the radiation meds in her mouth, and that saves it, right? Even though the tricorders, everything vanished. No. That because she put it in her mouth, that was fine. That was really dumb and showed whoever made this has never read the Star Trek technical manual, has no idea about what the holodeck is or what holodeck episodes do, and is just that they shouldn't be here. But that would have been bad enough. That would have been just shipwreck the entire series. Not the season, the series. It's that bad. But it stands as insignificance to the other picture you have. Tilly's first command. Tilly's first command that happens exactly as you think it would go.
Rabbi, when I reflect on this particular plot strand, looking back, watching this show over 3 full seasons, we've always been heading here, haven't we?
What, like the insanely
to this ridiculous moment? Yeah, I was hoping
takes command to, and then when she has a confrontation with a reasonably good adversary, it's a Twitter fight, and it's embarrassing. It was
excruciating.
I think you're projecting. Oh God, shut up! Like I don't want to. No, God, it's so bad. I mean, really, I honestly,
it was one step away from that moment where they go, whatever, wasn't it? It was just one.
Oh God.
Yeah, well, it was terrible, and I've never particularly disliked Mary Wiseman's performance in the role. At times I found her quite winsome, and I like her enthusiasm for the part, but I think her limitations really shone in this, and even the person that they had opposite her, who was Margot Kidder's niece, I believe, the Superman legend, the actress. Can't remember your name. Sorry. Who plays the leader of the Emerald Chain? That's what's her name now?
I think it's Janet.
Asira.
Yeah,
Janet Kidder. Yeah. Asira. And I find that character kind of the same. I mean, I suppose complaining about pantomime villains in Star Trek or any of the other things that we like could be a little churlish of us. But even so, again, we've got the same problem that we had in the previous one, where 2 completely ridiculous characters are saying completely ridiculous things in a completely ridiculous situation. And I'm supposed to invest in this. Well, I just couldn't, Keith. I mean, were you able
Yeah.
to hang on to some
No,
reality in this?
I must admit, I find, as you know, I've been the sort of defender here, but I find much with what we said about Terra Firma episode, I find this one hard to defend as well, because I had very mixed feelings about it. There were way too many plot threads going on. And I think the whole Tilly being made number one was a massive misstep this season. It didn't make any sense, and they kind of redacted it by the end of the season anyway. So yeah, there's been some real problems. There is one big problem that I've got with the writers' understanding of Star Trek, which I'm sure we'll get onto that when we get towards the last episode. But yes, this is a problematic episode, and I agree. I find it hard to defend some of the things you're saying here.
What I would have done, I think, and I can see that Tilly's supposed to be this character that people can identify with out there, but they're all sort of aimed at that sort of the Twitter crowd, as you described them, Rabbi. To me, what would have been more interesting if anybody was to have, and this whole thing with Tilly being the number one is it's just completely ridiculous. This moment belonged to Detmer, if anybody, with her PTSD.
Yeah,
I agree. Yes.
But she's not good enough actress to carry. I'm sorry. Look,
no, she isn't. No, you're right.
She's fine. She's basically a soap actress if she was in England, or she's supposed to be in commercials, right? And that's where I think she's holding in terms of like her talent and abilities. It just wasn't able to say that. But yeah, in terms of writing, she is definitely the person who should have taken that captaincy. That's a really good idea.
So why on earth didn't they do? I mean, for all I know, they may resolve that in the final 2 episodes. I'm very interested to find out.
No, it actually gets worse. Can I just? You remind me of something else. I got to bring up something you didn't see, right?
Yeah,
in the next episode,
yeah,
when Asira finally meets Starfleet, right?
Yes.
And she's got Discovery, and she meets Starfleet, and she then offers like Admiral, whatever his name is, I call him Admiral Arsehole, because basically that's what he is now.
That character's gone downhill as well.
She offers him. She wants an alliance. She wants for the Emerald Chain and Discovery to ally, and the Federation to ally. She's willing to give up all the dodgy practices, all the slavery, all the everything that's been all the what's the word? The cultural things they don't like about each other. She's willing to give all that up so they can align. They have Discovery. She has the technical ability, the resources to get the spore drive out to everybody, and we can save the universe, right? And he's like, "No, you got to stand trial for your crimes." Like, what? How not Star Trek is that? You have an enemy coming to align with you, and it's just shocking. It's just shocking.
It's I think it's telling of the current generation of, and because I've since found out Michelle Paradise, who's the showrunner of this season, who will be, I know there's several writers on it, but I'm sure that she's been in the captain's chair and making sure that, because it has been consistent in what it's been consistent in, the tone of it's been quite consistent, and I'm sure that's down to her, and choices like that, the moral compass probably has resided with her. And I think that's why it's making these strange, at every junction like that, it's making these strange calls that you've both identified as being really just non-Star Trek-y.
Yeah. I mean, with regards to the writing, I think overall this season, it's been an improvement, and they've listened to backlash and they've addressed it. But it's
had focus, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it's not been completely successful. And one of the things, unfortunately, with the Asira character that they did in this was, and this isn't good, but they didn't set it when they set her up. They set her up as a, the female version of a moustache twirling villain. Right. Yeah. There wasn't much to the character. There was in this episode, they actually, the penultimate episode, they actually brought some depth to the character, where you started to see another side to the character, and you think, oh, hold on a second, maybe they're sort of fleshing this out and doing something here. But then unfortunately it does a complete 180 again, and the character goes back to just being pure evil by the last episode, and that's a shame. It's a little bit of a mess, the journey that they had for that character. And I just think what's happened is over the course of the writing and the writers' room, there's been so many plot threads and so many different strings and stuff that some of it has fallen through the cracks and got lost and hasn't been properly thought through. And this, in my opinion, is a key example of that with the Osyraa character.
Yeah, listen, something else that wasn't entirely thought through was in the final episode. They have while they're retaking Discovery, they have a pitch battle on the in a turbo lift and on top of a turbo lift.
Yes.
Okay.
And so
this is my big problem.
Yeah, like you see the interior of Discovery, right?
Yeah.
And it's
the structural.
It's massive.
Yeah. Now, it's like a TARDIS. I mean, here's the thing. One of the things that you guys have been saying that I don't necessarily have a problem with is the characters' journeys and the characters' emotions and whatever this season haven't really bothered me, and for the most part, I think have been fairly well written and fairly well handled, and again, for the most part, well performed. What I really have a problem with, and what pulls me out of this being Star Trek, I think the general intention of the show, and if you like, the ethos behind it is very Star Trek. But the thing that really pulls me out, and it's a bit of a geeky thing, but it does annoy me, is they do not seem to understand Star Trek from a technology point of view, even though we're centuries in the future with it, right? Because with Star Trek, obviously everything's always been futuristic and all of this stuff, but it's always had a level of sense to it. So if they've gone down on an alien planet with radiation or no oxygen, they wear an EV suit, for example. And in that Su'Kal episode, they're beaming onto a planet with loads of radiation and all they're wearing is a tack vest. Yeah, that kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
But as Rabbi was getting on to, every Star Trek since the original series through Next Generation, Voyager, etc., there have been things like technical manuals, and you've always had sort of a basic understanding. You've got a primary and secondary hull, you've got warp nacelles, the bridge is usually located on the top, and you've got a number of decks and all this sort of thing, and it's made some sense, right? But this, we've got the outside design, which you yourself has said that you like, the outside design of Discovery. But whenever they show the interior, it has absolutely no relevance or connection to the exterior. So you see it, you've got these on the saucer section, you've got these two separate rings that spin that are, maybe, I don't know, 10 decks deep or whatever they are. But then when you go inside, it's like a Star Destroyer. It's massive. Yeah. And it's like,
well, I have a mutual friend and a one-time panelist on Warp Drive, Ian David Diaz. He obviously he's a filmmaker, director, and a writer as you are, and he explains this at great length, doesn't he? Reality and that kind of when you're crossing domains and from different perspectives, how that plays a part more than you think. And when they do break the spell like that, even if you think you don't notice things like that, you actually really, really do. I heard somebody else talk about that online because the thing is, this episode, I mean, I've got a picture there of Doug Jones. I thought Doug Jones was delightful in this, but I think Doug Jones is always delightful. It's nice to see his face and things like that. And I thank you, Doug, for being consistently for just bringing the goods on Discovery for 3 solid years now. A pretty thankless task, I think.
Wouldn't it have been great to see a show like a good Star Trek show with him, and a live action version of the of the 70s cartoon. Because
Yeah.
wouldn't it have been great to see?
He should have been the captain from from not day one, maybe
No,
from
he
day
should never
two.
been. He should never been a captain. He's not. He doesn't have that captain kind of metal, right?
Oh,
He's a captain. He's a guest captain in a guest
I think
star.
your sister should, yeah.
But I don't think he could carry. He's not. He's not Bacardi. He's not Kirky. He's not Janeway.
Or would it depend? Would it depend on who your number one was? Because if he had, because obviously you'd got a very, if you inverted the situation that was between Picard and Riker, and you gave a softer captain like him, with a more sort of stoic, get the job done number one. That guy, yeah, I do see what you mean. Yeah,
I just think in dramatic terms, it wouldn't have been again. And it's great performance. Just it's okay. This is where looking at the core of the problems. Really, you can see it that the Star Trek up until now, but up until this current iteration, generally speaking, appealed to geeky people, geeky boys, I would say. Girls as well, but mainly geeky boys, right? And geeky boys have a propensity for science, right? Have like some idea about science, and you've got to have it. It doesn't need to be scientifically accurate, but it can't be scientifically jarring. That doesn't make any sense. That's not the sensibilities of the people making it. They're very concerned about making feminine female drama, which is all about emotion. Which is why you have people crying every episode, and why that's so important. It's all about emotion, and they forget completely about the science and the the reality of it, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them, I think that's really.
There could have been room for a Star Trek show like that, but I don't think it would have been. It should have been the flagship show, because this should be. Even though you could say that Picard is the one that's got the star, the governor. Because this show is potentially looking forward, even when it was set in the past, in the fictional past. This should be the flagship show, and yet it's not. That we've got 3 Star Trek shows running now. And they just all look so shabby as concepts, and so make do and mend, so convoluted. And I think I keep coming back to that quote from you, Alex Kurtzman, that more of a platform than an actual TV show.
Yeah,
and I think that's fundamentally, and I didn't hang on to that quote too tight, because it was just one guy. But I think it has kind of torpedoed this show. And, the plot with the burn, and as great as Doug Jones was going through all this, it bored me senseless. But I was fighting to stay awake watching this. I really sincerely was. I've been following the entire story now through 11 episodes. I was kind of curious about what the burn was. It couldn't have been more disappointing, and seeing it played out, even with high quality special effects and pretty decent performances and all that sort of thing, costuming, I just didn't care. The last vestiges of my enthusiasm for this show seemed to drain away. And then I think in the last 5 or 10 minutes, they do sort of amp it up. And once the posturing sort of stops and Osyraa takes command, takes control of the Discovery, you'd think that would have re-energized me, because it was quite, the direction on this show is always sort of okay. But I was too far gone by that point, and I couldn't wait to turn this thing off. And I realized that out of 11 episodes that I've watched, that I'd say 9 out of that 11 have ruined my evening.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, honestly, and I think there was a little bit of hope in the first or second episode.
There was, yeah. I enjoyed it,
which makes it kind of a little bit, more crushingly disappointing. I mean, I look back, I knew it was going to go this way, but I just want Star Trek to be good. It's really sad. I think the real problem about Star Trek being a platform, right? Rather, because it's always really, Star Trek has been the most political and the most contemporary and political of all the big genre shows.
And we liked it. We liked it partly for that.
Right. But I think the issue now is we have this massive cultural divide, which is growing and growing and growing and growing, and I think it's becoming an actual cultural war, which I think is going to bleed into actual physical violence. I pray it's not. But yeah, but when they make it a platform, they made it a platform for one side in this cultural divide, and it stopped being the unifying thing that it was. And that for me is the greatest crime. Star Trek should be something where it doesn't matter what your political outlook is, something we can all aspire to, and we can all connect with one another. This has been the absolute opposite. And we've seen it in fandom. It's been, instead of connecting, it's caused division in fandom, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
And it's made me not want to watch any more Star Trek for a while as well. Keith, how do you feel about it?
I mean, I don't necessarily have an issue with something being a platform, for representation and diversity and all of that sort of thing. Because let's be honest, that's what Star Trek essentially is. However, it should not get in the way of good storytelling, and it should not get in the way of things making sense within the universe.
In some ways, it should be incidental to it, because we're so far in the future. If we know,
I have to tell you, I disagreeing with both of you on this. I think you can be really, really pointed and really contemporary and do it brilliantly. Let This Be Your Last Battlefield is the greatest example of that. That's the one with the black and white, and it's such a brilliantly simple way of showing because you didn't really notice the black on one side and white on the other.
No. Well, as a kid, I didn't even really understand what that was. I just thought it was a cool sci-fi thing.
Yeah, and it was brilliant. You know why? Because that is using Star Trek as a platform, but on a fact that we all can agree with, right? That hating somebody because of this such a tiny physical difference is insane, and it will destroy you, right? And it brilliant. I mean, it's just absolutely brilliant television. Just compared to this, which is so divisive, and it's horrible. And it's just, I don't know. It's the absolute opposite of what I think Star Trek should be.
I think as well, one of the things, and I said this on my podcast, but one of the things that this, and you'll probably disagree with me here, actually, but I think one of the things this season has suffered from as well is because it's only 13 episodes, and as we said, I feel that they wasted 2 of them with doing the Giorgio setup for the other show. The thing that was presented at the beginning of this, with them being the sort of fish out of water starship way in the future, and trying to rebuild the Federation and all of this sort of stuff, and the PTSD that the crew was going to suffer from, and all of this, they had the opportunity to tell that story for longer than they have. And what they've done here is, unlike Picard, that left loads of, didn't stick the landing and left loads of loose plot threads that weren't really resolved. In this one, they do the opposite. They tie everything up in a neat bow by the end. And I sort of think it would have been good if they'd maybe, gone into next season with some of the problems and the exploration.
What it would have been like if the season finale wasn't them reaching Starfleet. Then it would have meant something, right? Then and they could have stopped off at all these different planets and you could have it being somewhat episodic, and you can see, and that would have worked, right? And then it would have meant something when they got to Star Trek. But here's the thing: nothing is earned in this series.
They're not interested in telling those nuts and bolts stories, though, are they?
No, they're not. And that's why the Orville always is more successful than Star Trek Discovery. In my opinion.
And I know I'm going to keep beating on about Star Trek tech, but the other thing that sort of bothered me with the sort of cavernous interior of of Discovery is, this is supposed to be a ship that existed before or alongside the Enterprise, from the original series and all of that sort of thing. And even though they went through this sort of update that they gave it to make it fit in the 32nd century with programmable matter and all of this stuff. I mean, one of the things they did when they set that up was they said that the comm badge now is a personal transporter. So that leads me to think, well, why would they need this massive turbo lift system anyway? Because people could just beam to the deck that they want to go to, and it just seemed like it was there just for a cool visual fight. But it did my head in because it pulled me out of it, because I just sort of thought, hold on, what size is Discovery then? It's like
something that pulled me out of it beforehand was they had the bridge crew when they lost Discovery. They had the bridge crew. They left them. They locked them in the mess hall or something.
That's right. Yeah.
So from that point on, I was calling them the Muppet Babies, because that's kind of what they felt like. They had very rounded edges. They were very cutesy. You had the little cutesy robot. The Muppet Babies trying to take the ship. So what Asira does, she says, well, why don't we just vent the oxygen? And I'm like, okay, great. Yes, they're all going to die. I'm like really looking forward to Tilly and everybody dying horribly, right? That's like I'm going to enjoy. No, when they vent the section of the ship they're in,
they do it slowly.
They say, just open one tiny window. And so you get most of them walking around going, for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, plot-wise, that was pretty stupid plot-wise. And they didn't go there. We didn't lose anyone. Sorry, spoiler, Dan. We didn't lose anyone.
I really don't care. Just like Doctor Who, I don't care.
They were locked in the mess hall, which I think is in the Star Drive section, which is in the hole, and they had to get to the nacelles, one nacelle for their big plan. So I'm thinking, are they locked in like 3/4 of the ship? I mean, that doesn't seem very confined to me.
Well, especially with the size of the ship on the inside of the ship. Well, that was
Death Star.
I mean, that was the other thing. That was the other thing they wasted as well, Dan. You won't have seen this, but they set up. They've obviously had this subplot with the whole sphere data. And the fact that there might be some sentient AI that could be part of Discovery and all of this sort of stuff. And they set up in the penultimate episode that the dot droids, which again, I have a real problem with those because they're very Star Wars to me rather than Star Trek. But the droids were going to help them, and they were going to help them take the ship back. And I was like, oh, but then in the next episode, the droids just all get shot, and there's one that rescues one of the characters, and that's it. And they don't really sort of dig into that thing that they set up, and then they kind of, oh, we haven't got time for that now because we've got to end this. So it was like, oh well,
another vaguely interesting idea wasted.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I know I'm often defending it, but I agree that was something that was interesting that got set up and then just didn't get paid off at all, and it got almost like forgotten about. It was like just wipe that off the whiteboard because we're going to drop that story thread.
As I understand it, they've recently commenced filming on season 4 of Star Trek Discovery, but how long that's going to continue, whether it's been interrupted by now or not, I'm not sure, because they were filming on the Orville 2. That's had to close down again, so I don't know what the situation is on Discovery.
Yeah. We're not going to see any Star Trek probably until next year now, are we?
That's pretty much what I feel. That's pretty much what I feel, and that's why I've decided that with all the fatigue that I felt after watching Su'Kal, that I would take a little time out and I'll watch the finale when I watch them. And because this is our wrap-up episode of Warp Drive Season 1 itself. But when I come back to talk about this finale, it'll probably be live on YouTube and to the Facebook group, maybe the Spacebooks Facebook group, and we'll talk about it with you lot out there too. And you can see me squirm as I go back to the coalface to see how this all resolves. My hopes aren't high. And you know what? This show, Discovery, when I look back to season 1, it was the highlight of my viewing week when that was premiering. I know it was a bit of a mess, but I really enjoyed it. I would watch each episode at least twice in the average week. And now I look at these characters, they could be anybody. The only real character that ironically, they've tried to do so much with Burnham this time, and they've tried to humanize her, but they've actually somehow made it worse. There's only been Saru and Detmer Detmer, who I didn't even know the name of a season ago. So fair enough, Michelle Paradise. That consistency and having somebody there to bring a character like that through, fine. I appreciate that. So I am interested in that character. But apart from that, I'm just not feeling it. Sorry.
You'll see when you watch the ending. You know, I don't have a problem with the finale. I just think that we got there too soon. If that makes sense. There was an
somewhere too soon.
Yeah, there was an opportunity to do some
last line like super cringy.
What? Let's fly.
Let's fly. So yeah, they
I've seen that quoted. Yeah,
when she takes command of Discovery, because the Admiral says, "Listen, when we first came here, you seemed a bit bad, but now we see."
Yeah, that's very badly. That's very bad. Again, this is where they could have done with an extra episode or made that 2-parter, 1 part or something, because none of the where they end up in the epilogue to the finale, they don't show the more interesting journey of getting to that point. There are certain conversations. There was supposed to be a conversation that apparently happened off screen between Saru and Burnham that the Admiral mentions. And I'm like, no, that's the stuff we need to see. When Doug Jones and Sonequa Martin Green act together, those scenes are some of the best that we've had in Discovery. We got robbed of that scene. We got robbed of that conversation, which I would have loved to have seen, but instead we now have to imagine that it happened and it got told to us. So
they would rather prioritize this Admiral pretty much being brought to heel to worship at the feet of Michael Burnham like everybody else. It's not.
I mean, it was just rushed. It was. I've got no problem with the point that they end up in, and they could, and going forward, they could do some good stuff from here. But it was rushed, and like you said, suddenly they're all in their sort of Star Trek the motion picture with the next gen color scheme.
If they're rushed, Keith, if they're rushed and they've got a choice to include either one scene or the other, you see where I would have gone. Okay, I would go with the scene between Saru and Burnham, because the stuff between, because then that can be resolved and that can close out the season, and a bow can be tied on that. The stuff between her and her superiors can be held over until next year, and they can explore that in a lot more depth. The Admiral doesn't need to get to that place that quickly. That could play out over time. It seeds drama, and it seeds development, and it leaves us with a little uncertainty that could spark more interest and compel somebody to watch further.
Yeah.
Rather than a reason to sign off at this point and leave.
Yeah. Well, especially when you think with the streaming model that they have for this, they're not limited on time. Like, they don't have to deliver an episode that's 43 minutes with some change, to the network. Yeah. For this, they could have made this finale 90 minutes and actually had that stuff and shot that stuff and showed us it. But no, it was almost like it got to 50 minutes and it was like, oh, we need to defeat the bad guy and wrap this up. And for me, that was my disappointment. It felt very, very rushed. Yeah.
So I said the thing about this thing that really, the more I think about it, disturbing me is that how the enemy, Syra, came and offered complete peace with the Federation and changing their goals to the Federation goals and like literally saving the universe, and they said no because you're a minivans. No, I just.
She had an agenda. She didn't want to, pay for her crimes, but
So,
But-
do you think it was? Do you think it was?
The Federation are in no position to judge anybody else with their laws. Excuse me.
No.
And
Rabbi, was this a dramatic? Was this a way of dramatically framing that conflict that we see on silly places like Twitter, where feelings trump facts?
Yeah, that's exactly what. And actually, they had the beginnings of a good discussion between what was it, Stamets and the scientist they brought in, who was in.
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, they wasted that in the following episode by turning it into a Darth Vader choke scene, and it was like, what? It was like, what did they do that?
The scientist starts explaining like the good things that Osiris done. Says, listen, I would be dead now. I'm the scientist. I'm like and he talks about things that and then and it's a Twitter fight. That's right. It's a Twitter fight. Then Stamets says, "But she's a meanie." That's what it. But she's just mean. And he's like, and he has no answer. Like,
they did definitely set something up in the penultimate episode, which was really kind of thought-provoking, and completely dropped it in the finale, which again is a shame. Also, Rabbi, did you feel this, because you've seen it? Obviously, we've talked about the fact that this is a very expensive show, and you do get on screen a lot of bang for your buck in most episodes. But one of the things I felt particularly disappointed with in the finale, and I could have done with this rather than showing us the cavernous turbo lift interior of the Discovery, which, as you've probably guessed, I have real problems with. But they have a scene when the Navarre, which is the Vulcan Romulan alliance, that now a fleet of their ships turn up, but we don't actually see them. Right, it was like they ran out of money to actually show us the ships, like the copy and paste thing in Picard at the end of the season. We had an opportunity to see some really interesting new ship designs that are partly based on Romulans, partly based on Vulcans, and we don't see any of it. It all happens off screen again, and it's like, oh, that was a bit of a waste.
But there's another thing that also doesn't make sense, that they Burnham convinces the Admiral to break off the attack to take back Discovery because they're going to do something, and because of that, the Navarre, the Vulcan Romulans, also break off their attack as well, with nobody talking to them. They're just like, yeah, okay, bye, we're done.
Yeah, we did it again at the end. There's a horrible. It's done. I mean, I know voiceovers and logs are part of Star Trek and always has been, but that basically Burnham has like a sort of final captain's log as sort of the epilogue, and it's a montage where they show all these things, but you think, so you see like the ambassador from Navarre, and you see the ambassador from the Trill, and you see all of these people, but they don't show the scene. Instead, they just have them kind of shaking hands, and it pans to the next thing. And it's again, damn it, those are the sort of things that make Star Trek really interesting. Why are we not seeing that? You're
right. I think the thing I'm going to watch either Star Trek, good Star Trek, or the Orville. I'm in the mood for good Star Trek. It really got me.
You know what? I'm so glad that we've had this conversation, that we've made this wonderful episode of Warp Drive just for you. But it's actually been quite therapeutic for me, and some of the things that you've both said have actually kind of made me realise why I'm a fan of this fictional universe anyway, and the fact that I probably can leave this to one side and still enjoy the other stuff. So yes, I've got the 2-part finale to come. Is it better than what I've seen up to now? Is it going to at least leave me with no?
Well, I think there is a tide, which is episode 12. The first part is actually it is a little bit Die Hard in space, but that is actually it's a lot that, but also, like you said, between the scenes with the Admiral and Asira and Stamets, and I've forgotten the name of the character, but there's some. Hold on, I want to get that because it annoys me when I don't remember names. Aurelio. When those scenes are actually, as I said, they set up some really good stuff. They just don't pay it off in the finale, or at least that's what I felt. But
as you said,
you know what they do the opposite as well. they pay off things they didn't set up as well. They really do. They're like they didn't set up Burnham's relationship with Book, right? I mean, other than like he's a black guy, you're a black person. We know that you're into segregationism, so the black people have to go together. The LGBTQ people have to go together. You know, the everybody else has to. But I mean, they didn't set up that relationship at all, did they? In fact, you know,
well, I don't know. It's been a sort of a ongoing thing through the season, hasn't it? Because they did get together in an earlier episode, didn't they?
I mean, the more I think about it, I'm thinking maybe the end of the season should have been Discovery turning up after it's been a year. That the season should have been her year in this strange new world, right? That would have been interesting as well.
Or alternated the episodes, one episode with her, one episode with Discovery.
That's what I predicted way back that I thought they were going to do, and they didn't do that. But in fact, all of my predictions they didn't do. So
your Star Trek show talent and understanding. Of course, they're not going to work.
So yes, it's going to be quite a while before we get any more Star Trek, but there will be some more Warp Drive in some format or another before then, I can promise you, because yes, we're in a new year, restructuring the channel generally, and Warp Drive will also be redeveloped somehow for our entertainment and hopefully for yours too. So yes, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you'll get the very first notifications about when all of that happens and what it looks like, and whether you might be invited to the party. Let's put it that way. And you can leave your comments and all the rest of it. Share it along to whoever you think may enjoy it or not, if you want to pay them back. But yeah, this has been quite a long and perilous journey, but backwards through Discovery and Lower Decks, an entire season of Lower Decks we talked about. That was quite difficult. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the Orville, hopefully next year, which I know isn't Star Trek, but sort of is, kind of saves my fandom a little bit. But yeah, keep watching, keep listening for more. Keith, how's it going on the Let's See What's Out There podcast? What have you been talking about lately? What is there to see?
Well, I mean, we do discuss all 13 episodes of Discovery on Let's See What's Out There. We also discuss on the same channel, Let's See What's Out There Plus, we discuss all of season 2 of Star Wars The Mandalorian. So please check that out wherever you get podcasts. One thing I do want to say actually about the fact that, you know, production may get halted for a while whilst you know, things go on in the world as they are. The one thing that can still happen is the development and writing, and I just really hope that the staff use the time to get a good plan for the season moving forward, rather than
what's the first step in recovery, right? What's the first step in recovery?
Acceptance.
Admitting you got a problem. Are they up to that step yet? No.
Oh well, yeah.
By the way,
maybe not.
But yes. Can I wholeheartedly plug Home Media Minefield, which I find more enjoyable than Let's See What's Out There, because you just talk about stuff I'm happy to hear about, right? That's a freaking great channel. I've been really enjoying it.
So tell us about Home Media. What have you been covering recently, in recent weeks? Because I saw a video you put up the other day about three films, well, 2 in particular, in a horror trilogy, a slasher trilogy, whiwhich seeded one of my biggest ever crushes for Jennifer Love Hewitt. So tell us about
your videos. Yes. Well, I get that. Home Media Minefield. Basically, I do unboxings and reviews of physical media, mainly Blu-ray and 4K releases. And the one you're referring to is, yes, we recently did an episode where I go through the I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy, which was released just before Christmas. And they've got loads. I mean, the cool thing they've done on that is they've got commentaries by podcasters that are passionate about slasher movies and horror movies. And you know what? Those commentaries are incredibly interesting. And it's really good that 88 Films have put that on these releases to have something new. apart from them
Yeah,
obviously
that's a good
being in
idea.
high def and all of that good stuff. So yeah,
Did 88 also put out the Tremors special edition recently? With
that's Arrow Video have put Tremors out, which I understand is also a great
and
release.
there's a commentary on that with my mate Jonathan Melville. If you're watching, Jonathan,
Oh right,
so
cool.
that's why I wondered if it was the same label, because he's not a podcaster, but he's a writer and all that stuff. Now, well, it says a lot, doesn't it, for home media, that physical media may not be dead, and that there are enough people like us out there to keep these things going.
Yeah.
So what's coming up this week? What you got coming up next on the channel?
Well, I did an unboxing, and the review is going to be this week of an Australian film from 1981 called Road Games, starring Stacey Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh my god! I remember that. Oh my god!
Yeah,
I can't believe that happened. Wow.
Yeah, Indicator series have done a really nice release of that with it's taken me ages to go through it because there are so many special features. There's even like a 2-hour lecture about the film that was recorded in 1980, and that's included on the special features. But I mean, you know, for fans and for the collector's medium, you know, Blu-ray and 4K are definitely there's some of the boutique labels and some of the main distributors as well are doing absolutely fantastic releases of some of these films. So yes, if that's your bag, please check out my channel on YouTube. Thank you.
Fantastic. All the links will be in the show notes, as always. And I'm going to look to the Rabbi from Another Planet now to bring us up to date, because I've been out of the loop with Star Trek for a few weeks. I understand there's been something to be a little bit more happy about, and you've got a video or a thumbnail to share to enlighten us, to start our 2021 off on a positive note. We've got some good Star Trek news, haven't we?
No, it's bad. Listen, I think it's more bad news for Civilization. Okay. So this video is actually uploading right now as we go. So Mary Wiseman, she's married to the guy who played the Andorian guy, and she came out I think a couple of days ago as being queer and proud. So I was curious about what that meant because she seems straight. She says no, I'm sexually fluid, gender fluid. So this is my central thesis about what's wrong with the why Star Trek Discovery itself is evil, is absolutely evil and a detriment to society.
Hang on tight.
Let's say if you don't have a what they call it, a cis sexuality, that's fine. That is groovy. Nobody should
Am I right in thinking as well, Rabbi, that cis actually stands for comfortable in skin?
Comfortable in skin, yeah. God, I can't.
I only found out that quite recently, because I know very little about all of this.
It's very, very disturbing. But yeah, so yeah. Again, I'm happy for anybody to be bisexual, gay, whatever you are. Enjoy being who you are. However, she was asked about her sexuality, and she said, "No, really, I've always been fluid, right? Fluid." And I just feel there is a push in her segment of society to make anybody who is of, and I'm using the word correctly, a normative, personal identity of gender and sexuality, to feel like there's something wrong with them, and that came out from this, and I just feel this is going to cause so much, as much or more. I think it's going to cause more damage to society.
It's elevating people who are orientated the same way as Mary is, as almost being as higher beings of some sort.
Yeah, no, there's something wrong with you if you are straight, if you are gender, whatever it called, normal or whatever. I don't want to say the word normal, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you are of a fixed gender or a fluid gender, or if you are straight now and you're a kid growing up in this world, you're gonna think there's something wrong with you. You're gonna and I think pushing people into something that isn't their sexuality, which regardless of it's like trying to reprogram a gay person to be straight, or have the entire society tell you that
I see what you mean.
It's not okay. You're not fluid. You're not open. You're not open-minded if you're not open to trying out different forms of sexuality. I just think is so fundamentally damaging to society, and I think that damage is about to explode. You just sit here with this,
and I would imagine within this video you nail it all down pretty tight.
Well, modesty prohibits me to say.
Yes, if you haven't subscribed to the Rabbi from Another Planet channel, you really don't know what you're missing. So please head over there. The links will be in the show notes. As always, this is the tip of the iceberg. Challenging content. One of the most sincerely, I love your content. I truly do. And this is some of the most interesting and amusing and mind-opening content that you will find on YouTube that's got this sort of eye towards geeky content. I'm not saying you've got to agree with everything that Svi or Keith or I say about any subject, whether it be fictional or the factual world, but it's all about the exchange of ideas. And to me, that's what YouTube is all about. That's certainly why I've come to this platform, to just have more conversations with people I like and respect, like you two guys. Thanks for joining me on this trip, however long we've been here. It's been a while, and we'll be back. I'll speak to you about all that another time. But yes, while I've got your attention, let me remind you about some of the other things going on the channel, because whilst Warp Drive may be wrapping up for a little while, we have got other content that you're probably going to love just as much, such as Teleport, which is a Blake 7 podcast. Yay. 4 episodes deep in. Thank you, Keith. 4 episodes deep in so far, and several more recorded. It drops on the 7th of every month on the podcatcher of your choice, and also here on the Spacebooks YouTube channel in a sort of enhanced video form, because we know that some of you on YouTube, you don't like going anywhere else for your entertainment, do you? So it is here. Those are banking up very, very nicely, covering lots of different aspects towards Blake 7 with a fanish eye. But I have just recorded one interview, my very first interview with somebody off of the telly, as I keep telling. So you've got to subscribe to the channel to find out who that is and where that conversation goes, because I don't think this person has spoken before or yet. It could be quite interesting. Also, what else have we got? We have, yes, Type 40, our Doctor Who content, Type 40 Live, which is our live streams. They take place on a Tuesday afternoon, most of the time, where myself and an assortment of other Doctor Who fans and friends and companions get together live over YouTube and over in the Type 40 Facebook group to bounce around whatever's going on in Doctor Who news in a given week, or just to talk about whichever is the chosen subject this time. So we had a lot of fun on the comeback show last week, where we talked a little bit about how we see ourselves in that hugely significant popular culture figure of the Doctor, and talked some more nonsense too. So there's always Doctor Who content and other things to follow, of which I'm yet to decide. I'm trying to fine-tune things. We had a lot of fun with The Mandalorian. I think we all enjoyed The Mandalorian late last year, didn't we? So I'd like to talk about more things, whatever you'd like. Let us know. Get in touch at the Facebook at outlook.com. That's the email address, or you can let us know in the comment section. Of course you can. Why not? Gentlemen, I think it's time to beam out, recharge our dilithium crystals. I haven't suffered the burn yet. I don't think you have either. Just burn out during lockdown. But yeah, we hope you're staying safe, and my best wishes for the rest of 2021. Keep your eye on the channel. Thank you, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Thanks ever so. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.